Say, Alex, I was wondering, why did you transfer from your school to St. Michael's? There's just a year left before the university after all. That... I knew they would eventually ask me about that. It's not that I was ashamed of my family background, but I feared they would think I didn't belong at St. Michael's and would be disappointed in me. My uncle Edward, my father's younger brother, passed away 2 months ago. Since he didn't have children of his own and my father was his favorite brother, my uncle left an amount of money for my education in his school. We weren't even close. It was a surprise for everybody. But of course my parents were delighted and planned at once to send me to a good school to help me enter Oxford or Cambridge. So, your parents are not wealthy? No, my father is a lawyer, but he owns a really modest firm. Ha! My father could buy your whole village if he wanted. Ignore him, Alex. Rick's father is a lawyer as well. I looked at Rick and Monty, relieved. And my family has a lot of money, but with so many relatives, I don't think I can aspire to get more than a good education from them. We are too many to share. I nodded. Hey, don't be offended. It was just a joke. I'm not so upright to mind about those kind of things. Damien's father is an important politician, but don't you know? Yeah, and one day I'm doing to be a diplomat. Next year I will be law in Oxford, and when I finish on term in Sandhurst, the military academy, and then hopefully a couple of years in the colonies. Sounds nice. Damien looked at me as if I had insulted him. Sounds boring as hell. All our careers sounds positive boring as well. You kid, I'm not excited to get into the stock exchange, although working in the city seems good enough. Hey, at least you will be in London and not in a foreign chateau being eaten alive by mosquitoes or worse things. And you, Rick? What are you going to study? Rick shrugged, pulling a face. He's going to be a lawyer, of course, like his father. Not that I like it, but there's no other option. And you, Alex? Yes, tell us, have you chosen yet? I glanced to my half-empty plate, embarrassed to be the focus on their attention. All three of them looked at me intently, and I felt really uninteresting and dull all of a sudden. I haven't decided yet, no. My parents want me to study law or medicine, but I'd rather study something like history. Damien chuckled. That's for poor bookworms who ended in their sad lives as school teachers. Is that what you want? What I wanted right then was to hide under the table. I still don't know, I've told you. Well, whatever. And he stood from the table. We followed suit since we had already finished our meal. I think it's alright, as long as you choose something you enjoy doing. Yeah, I wish I could choose. I would study history over law any time of the day. I felt slightly better. I was surprised that even in that stern environment I had found mates who would support me, no matter how wealthy my family was or my future choices. When we were walking out the dining hall, a guy from my class stopped me. Hey, you're the new one, right? They have told me to tell you there's a parcel for you, so you must go see Wilson right now and get it. A parcel? Ah, thank you. You're getting a parcel from home already? I bet it's food, a house-made cake. Nah, knowing my mother, it must be more winter clothes. I will go to the hall and pick it up. Do you want me to go with you? Oh, thank you, no need for that. Okay, but think of me if it's a cake, will you? I grinned and waved goodbye to Monty and Rick. Damien had already scurried away. I could more or less remember how to get from the dining hall to the housemaster's office. I was a bit worried because the corridors were completely empty by then. Everybody seems to leave for the study rooms or the bedrooms after dinner. And I definitely didn't want to get lost. I took the main stairs, glad to remember where they were. The steps were high and the stairs were long and made a curve, so one had to mind their step while climbing down. Suddenly, I felt a push on my back, as if I had bumped with another student. Was I so focused on the stairs that I hadn't noticed whoever was also going down? I lost my footing and the ground was level with my face. With my face in a snap. I tried to regain my balance, reaching for the railing, but had no success. Starting to panic, I saw how the railing slipped from my fingertips and I kept falling down the stairs. I tried again to reach for something, anything, that could stop my fall, but my body kept spinning down the stairs. I was too shocked and frightened to feel any pain, but my head and limbs kept bumping against the hard planes and angles of the stone stairs. Then I bumped against something soft for a change and I stopped tumbling. Disoriented, I felt two arms around me and I realized I was lying on the floor in the middle of the endless stairs, half on top of another student. You have a knack for getting lost, don't you? Damien? When I could focus my sight, I saw Damien's face barely inches from mine, and I noticed that I had run over him. His hands were holding me to avoid falling down again. Embarrassed, I tried to move from my position on top of him. I'm so sorry. Damien laughed, amused. I wouldn't mind, had I not a bloody stab digging against my back. I got up and helped him to his feet. Are you alright? It's me who should ask. You look all battered. Yes, thank you for stopping my fall. The two of us looked stairs down. There was still a flight of stairs until the ground floor. I looked upstairs and I saw I had fallen 2 flights. No wonder everything hurt. As soon as my left foot touched the ground, the pain traveled up my leg until it reached my spine. Damien threw me a concerned look. Can you move that foot? Is it the ankle? I think it might be sprained. Let's hope it's not broken. You could have broken some bones with that fall, you know? Or more than some bones, you're really lucky. I hadn't thought about it, but when he said it... Yes, I was lucky to have just a sprained ankle. Damien helped me reach the feet of the stairs, and then we headed to the housemaster's office on the hall. Wilson was horrified to see me being half carried by Damien. What happened, boy? It's just the second day here, damn it. I know, I'm sorry, I bumped against someone at the main stairs and fell down. You bumped against someone? Who was it? I shrugged. I couldn't see. He could have gone downstairs with you to help, couldn't he? Yeah, that would be the sensible thing to do in this situation. You're supposed to be gentleman. Perhaps he didn't notice, I don't know, or he was frightened. I felt embarrassed enough and I wanted to drop the subject. I sat down at the housemaster's office and Wilson's put me an anti-inflammatory cream and bandaged my ankle. Damien stood by my side to help me to walk back to our dorm afterwards. Now that I think of it, in fact, I was coming here to pick up my parcel. Wilson threw me an odd look. What parcel? We haven't received anything yet. But a guy from my classroom told me you had a parcel for me. Damien frowned. Well, I can assure you, there isn't any parcel. You can look around here if you want to see. Alright, maybe they heard it wrong. I didn't know what to think, honestly. We found Monty and Rick at the door of our shared room. Monty opened his eyes wide and sources when he saw me limping towards them, holding myself on Damien's shoulder. What the hell? What happened? And the parcel? Well, it turns out there was a mistake and there wasn't any parcel, and on top of that, I fell on the stairs. How could you fall down? Did you slip? Damien helped me sit down on my bed. He said another boy bumped against him and made him fall, but he didn't see who he was. What? What the hell were they thinking? You could have broken your neck, you know. The steps on the main stairs are very high. I know. I was lucky, it's just a sprained ankle. Has Wilson called a doctor? There's no need. I can move my ankle so it's not broken, see? I moved my ankle in carefully slow circles to show them. It hurt, but it wasn't as painful as before. As long as I don't put all my weights on my left foot, it will be okay. If you say so. We're going to the bathroom. Do you want me to help you? I hadn't thought of that. How embarrassing. But after that endless day, I really needed a bath, so I would have to swallow my pride and let them help me. Damien took the things he needed for his bath and left while I was still hesitating. Come on, Alex, grab your pajamas and towel and stuff. I bet there's already a mile-long queue for the bathroom. In the end, Rick went ahead to queue for the three of us, while Monty helped me to pick up the things I needed for the bathroom. Some of the other boys are pity on me and left us jump ahead in the queue, but we still had to wait in the corridor for half an hour. When it was almost my turn, I suddenly heard something bickering loudly, and I recognized Damien's voice at once. I turned the corner, and there, in front of two open bedrooms, Damien was grabbing the front of the shirt of the classmate who told me to go to the housemaster's earlier. Damien was scary. He was smirking and showing his teeth threateningly mere inches from the other boy's face, and he was almost lifting the guy from the ground. Did you think it would be funny playing a prank on the new kid, huh? I'm telling you, one of the servants told me to pass him the word. I don't know anything about prank. As if. Tell whoever's behind this that the kid is in my bedroom, so I'm the only one who has the right to play pranks on him if I wish. Besides, what would you have done if he had ended up seriously injured, huh? The poor guy was starting to stop by then. I stepped forward, jumping on my good foot to stop that nonsense. Damien, stop it already, come on! Damien looked at me through squinted eyes and then gave a last waggle to the guy. Will you remember then? Do I have your word? The kid is mine, so you'll leave him alone. He let go of the boy and he ran to his bedroom, screaming. All the people around, mostly my classmates, started staring at me with curiosity. Embarrassed, I approached Damien. That was unnecessary. Do you really think it was a prank? Damien shrugged and started walking, giving me his back. There's always the possibility. I jumped behind him, annoyed. Well, you could have just told me and I would have talked with that guy. Sure. We arrived to where Rick and Monty were waiting for me, watching the whole scene with surprise. I stopped by them, but Damien kept on walking. And don't refer to me as kid again. We are the same age. Damien chuckled and turned to look at me. You're just a little bird barely leaving the nest. And turning around again, he reached the stairs and left. The week went by really slowly. I spent almost all my spare time trying to catch up on the daily homework, but I was still worryingly behind in some subjects. There were already essays to be written, upcoming midterm exams, and group projects. Rick had disturbed the task for the projects and had prepared a surprisingly detailed schedule for the whole term. I was amazed at his organization skills, honestly. I had never met someone so clever and with such a tidy mind in my whole life. But I hadn't had any spare time to ask him to help me with the subjects I was more behind on, and I was a bit ashamed of asking anyway. I didn't want to bother him. The good news was that by the end of the week, my ankle was much better and I couldn't already walk without help. That's it, limping, of course. It had been really embarrassing to have Monty accompanying me to the classroom or the dining hall and everywhere for the whole week. And also helping me to dress and undress in the morning and evenings. I had drawn the line at helping me in the bath. However helpful he was, I closed myself in the bathroom every time and didn't allow him to help. So I was glad I didn't have to rely on him anymore, no matter how happy he was to help me. Sunday arrived, and with it my first free day in St. Michael's. I don't want to spend the day at my cousin Gary's. I chuckled. Monty had been complaining since we woke up. Do they live near here? Half an hour by car. My parents are picking me up in 10 minutes and will bring me back in the evening. I'd rather spend the Sunday here with you. Well, my ankle is way better and I'm sure you will have fun with your family. I would be glad to go out from this building too, but my village is a good 3 hours train ride from here. Monty sighed. Rick and Damien were staying in their school as well, so I supposed he felt a little left aside. What are you doing today? I don't know. I should study and also I promised to write home. I shrugged, still undecided. Okay then, see you at dinner time. Okidoki. Wir können jetzt entweder in die Gärten oder halt eben zum Lernen gehen, aber ich persönlich muss ja sagen, ich finde so einen freien Sonntag unfassbar schön. Weswegen ich vorziehen würde, in die Gärten zu gehen, aber ich muss jetzt kurz einen Schluck trinken. So viel lesen bin ich nicht gewohnt. Also, go for a walk in the gardens. I started the day writing a letter from my parents, playing down the stairs fall, of course. But after that task was done, I found myself staring out the window. The morning was sunny and the garden looked beautiful and all alluring. So I decided my books could wait until the afternoon, and I went for a walk outside. The garden was actually just the entrance of the school, quaint but not very large, but in the rear grounds of the school there was the woods. I decided to head to that place. I followed the dirt path between the trees. The air was quiet and the trees had a nice range of ochre tones. A week ago it was still summer, but autumn was starting to show everywhere. I walked along the path until my ankles started to bother me, and then I entered the foliage and sat under a tree. The silence was relaxing. I was glad to have decided to go out. I had been so busy and stressed by the lessons and the novelties in my life that I hadn't noticed that I had been shut inside for walls almost the whole week. So it was nice to sit down there over the 3 leaves, spacing out and hearing only the birds singing. All right, not only the birds. I sighed as soon as I heard some voices at the other side of the dense group of trees. Of course it was impossible that I was the only one who had the thought of coming there. Why did I think that everybody would be either playing cricket or studying indoors? I didn't feel like standing up and leaving, so I peered between the trees to see if I recognized who it was. Perhaps they would leave soon. Oh, that was Damien. And he was not alone. Was there a girl with him? Oh yes, those jiggles were unmistakable. Damien was leaning against the tree, smoking a cigarette. Well, the fact that he smoked wasn't anything shocking news but that point. What were they doing? I squinted my eyes to try to distinguish what was going on. The girl tiptoed and kissed Damien on the mouth, hooking her arms around his neck. Damien threw his cigarette and kissed her back. Then he lowered his hand and raised her skirts, leaving his hand somewhere inside her clothes where I couldn't see it. A twig cracked under my foot. I cursed in my head, although light. The creak sounded clear and loud in the silent woods. The girl instantly turned in my direction, saw my silhouette, and started running away along the path. I crawled backwards, frightened, covering my mouth with my hand, certain that Damien would hear my breathing. My blood was pounding loud against my temples, and all of a sudden I felt as if I was being as loud as an elephant. Damien turned to look in my direction, clearly furious. Fantastic! You have scared her away! And who's that, by the way? I tried to turn and run away, but my back bumped against a tall bush. Damien advanced some steps in my direction. I didn't think he could see my face through the trees, but he suddenly smiled knowingly. Is that you, little bird? Tss. And he started walking after his girlfriend. He wasn't mad at me then. I didn't know if I should feel relieved or not. Suddenly, going back to the school and watching the cricket match started to seem a great idea. In the end, I spent all the day with some of my schoolmates that had stayed at the school. I watched the cricket match, had lunched, studied a bit in the library with them, And then, in the afternoon, I decided to go for a walk by the woods again. A bit of fresh air before dinner time would be great after the closed space of the library. And I wouldn't have the bad luck of bumping against Damien and his girlfriend twice in a day, would I? The sun was already setting behind the mountains at the other side of the town, and the light was golden and peach-colored between the leaves of the trees. The weather was still warm, and it felt nice to walk through the peaceful woods. I still limped, of course, but I decided a short walk wouldn't hurt my ankle. I wasn't going to overexert it after all. I followed the dirt path until its end. The path finished at a metal fence, while the woods kept going at the other side for miles more until I reached the main road and then ran through the Shire. The shadows of the trees were starting to stretch on the ground, and the air was growing colder, so I thought it was a good moment to come back to the school. Dinner time would be soon anyway. I turned back and limped through the path, trying to keep a good rhythm. Afterwards, when I remembered that moment, I swear I could only hear the birds and the autumn breeze among the leaves. But there was clearly something else in the wood, or, better said, someone else. Suddenly I fell down onto the ground, a blurry shadow jumping on me and making me stay with my back glued to the hard dirt of the path. I pushed and tried to wriggle out of their hold, but the attackers was bigger and stronger than me. Who the hell was that? My heart started to race when I saw my attacker's face, covered in a mask. It was one of those Venetian masks that some people used in masquerade balls, dark brown with short pheasant feathers on one side. It covered the man's face, and because at least I could see that he was definitely a male to the top of his mouth, so I could only see his square chin and his thin lips. Was it still a prank? I couldn't recognize any of my classmates under this mask, but it entered the realm of possibility. But he was strong. He was holding my two wrists under just one of his huge hands. I was almost achieving slipping away from under his weight, but then a punch to my jaw with his bare hand made my head spin. Although I stopped struggling just for a moment, when I focused my sight again, there was something metallic in the corner of my eye. A knife? I started yelling at once, realizing all my struggling was useless against my opponent, and started to feel really frightened. I tried to free my arms with all my might, but it wasn't all for night. My legs too were immobilized under his weight, and I couldn't land a single kick, no matter how much I tried. The metallic glint moved up over the man's head, and then I could see it clearly. It was a knife, yes, a big sharp-edged butcher's knife. And the man had raised it with the intention of burying in my chest. Panicking, I kept on yelling, wiggling and kicking in the air. I felt completely helpless. My ears didn't even recognize the sound of leaves being stomped on and the rustle of clothes when someone grabbed the back of the man's jacket and pushed him to the ground. Still in shock, I breathed slowly. "Alex, are you okay? Did he hurt you?" The attacker didn't waste a moment and pushed himself up and started running away really fast. Two of my classmates ran after him while Monty stayed by my side, watching me with wide-eyed concern. "Take my hand. Can you stand up?" I let them help me back to my feet. I was still breathless, and I felt a sob trying to escape through my throat. I closed my eyes and pushed it down. I wasn't going to cry. I was strong. I wasn't a kid anymore. "Shh, it's all right." The next thing I felt were his arms around my torso and his familiar scent wrapped around me. Relieved, I basked in the feeling of being safe and warm, although I managed to keep my eyes dry. Not that it was easy, I thought. The temptation of crying out of nerve was great. But it was my new friend who was hugging me, not my mother, so my pride got the best of me and I pushed him gently after a moment. "Thank you, Monty. What did you see?" "Well, I was at the fence entering the school where I met Ed and Millard, and then we heard you shout." Huch? Ich bin gerade irgendwie... Sorry. "Well, I was at the fence entering the school where I met Ed and Millard, and then we heard you shout." We ran here as fast as we could and saw the guy on top of you with a knife in his hand. What the hell, Alex? What's going on? I swear I haven't the slightest idea. Our 2 classmates came back running and out of breath. Sorry, he was faster than us. Oh no, don't tell me he escaped. I'm really sorry, we couldn't catch him. Did he escape through the main door? No, he jumped over the fence before we reached the door and kept running through the woods. We followed him, but he was very fast, and we lost sight of him. What a disgrace! Well, come on, Alex, we must inform the head teacher at once. I nodded and limped back to the school, supporting part of my weight on Monty's arm. I was a bit nervous to go bother the head teacher in his room on a Sunday evening, but I guessed it couldn't be helped. Of course he had to be informed if a masked man attacked one of his pupils inside the school. He made us pass into a small sitting room, cozy and comfortable, and offered us a tea. The sight of my shaking hands, limping foot, and the state of my poor uniform sure gave him a fright and told him something bad had happened. Monty helped me to explain the events, and the head teacher listened to us in silence, frowning. So, that man jumped the fence into the woods, attacked you, and ran away through the same place he had entered, right? Well, I didn't see him until I had him already on top of me, so I don't know if he came through the fence or not. The main door to the school grounds was closed until this group of boys arrived. How many of you were there, boy? We were about 10, I would say. 3 of my class, counting myself, and a bunch of younger students. Did you see someone suspicious around the door? No, but there were parents and also some coachmen bringing the students back. The head teacher waved away that thought. We are not starting to suspect of our students' fathers and coachmen, are we? The facts are clear that masked men jumped over the fence to enter the school through the wood, avoid being seen, with the unfortunate Mr. White here who was in his way. It was obviously a burglar. I will call the police right now, and with luck they will catch him while he is still hiding in town. Go to the dining hall, young man, and have a footman clean that uniform for tomorrow, Mr. White. I nodded. My poor trousers were dirty with mud and dry leaves. Monty and I went back to our bedroom first and washed ourselves a bit. I brushed my trousers the best I could and asked a footman if I could give them to him after dinner to clean. He accepted in exchange for a tip, of course. I sighed, relieved. My pocket money was scarce, but at least it would be well spent. Alex, what happened? Rick appeared at the door and I looked at me from head to toe, startled. I realized that even though my uniform looked way better than before, I still had mud and leaves in my hair and my shoes were a disaster. Monty came to my help as always and explained to Rick all about the masked burglar. Rick kept looking at me intently. When Monty finished his story, Rick came closer to me and inspected my wrists. Your wrists are bruised. It's nothing. It doesn't hurt. You've had a rough week, first the fall and the stairs, and now this. Exactly. I suppose you don't think this is a coincidence, do you? I frowned, confused. What do you mean? Both things are not related. Think about it for a moment. First, some unknown student accidentally pushed you down a long and high set of stairs, and now another unknown person attacks you with a knife. It was a burglar. Why would anyone attack me on purpose? What are you implying? Are you sure there isn't any reason for someone to go after you? Don't be ridiculous. It is Alex we are talking about. It was Damon. Perhaps someone would have a grudge over him. But Alex? I reckon you are right. Our other roommate, Damien, walked in that very moment, smirking as always. Where were you? I told Muller to look for you, but he couldn't find you. Damien took a bunch of wrinkled banknotes from the inner pockets of his jacket. There were £1 notes and also £5 ones. I guess he had at least £20 just there. That was quite a lot for these times. I was busy earning a bonus from my allowance. You know, it's always nice to have a bit of pocket money. Monty groaned and covered his face with his hands, while Rick and I shared an uneasy look. I don't want to know how you have won all this money. If the teachers find out, I don't want to get involved at all. Damien chuckled and put away the notes carelessly in a drawer. Oh, don't worry about that. They already know. In fact, I guess they're expecting a rematch next Sunday to try to win back all the money they have lost today. Monty groaned louder and shook his hand in disbelief. You will never change, will you? You must teach me how to be so good with poker one of these days. Rick's comment surprised the three of us and it ended up jiggling with Damon over it. What? I swear I wouldn't use that knowledge in school, but you never know when it can come handy. Damien patted his back, grinning, and seemed about to leave again for the dining hall when he noticed the way I looked. Hey, what's wrong? Did something happen? You fell down again, little bird? And between the three of us, we told him about the events that transpired in the woods. Damien sat down in silence for a moment, frowning. Mates. I agree with Rick. This is not a coincidence. Why? I mean, why would someone attack me? We don't know, but perhaps you could do some research, don't you think? Well, if you two agree, it means there's a chance that it's true. I'll get going to the dining hall. Playing poker always makes me hungry. See you there. And he left without waiting for us, as always. Monty sighed. Okay, what about brushing our hair a bit to take off all the mud and leaves and then going to have dinner? I nodded. I didn't notice before, but I was starving. So that's what we did. I asked them to leave the topic of my attack until the next morning since I was already too anxious and I really needed to relax and rest for the evening.